Hello everybody, Andrew Field here, back with your latest news. Um, if you thought that 2020 was a bad year, you were right. I have more information to give you, but that's going to be later in the video. So, to start things off, it's pretty funny. CNN wrote a letter to the Trump campaign after Trump's team demanded that CNN apologize for a poll that showed Joe Biden leading. Trump's first rally, I think, was said to be held in Tulsa, Oklahoma on June 19th. Tulsa had the worst incident of racial violence in the U.S. history in 1921, with 300 black people killed. Um, I didn't know about that until now. So they're calling for Juneteenth, I think, June 19th. That's when slavery was abolished, for that to be a federal holiday, and I totally agree with that. I think that that should be a federal holiday, and I think it may after this. But so it's really insensitive for him to have the rally there on the day that slavery was, you abolished. So I think he moved it to the next day, to like the June 20th, I think. But he's having people sign waivers, coronavirus waivers, before he attends his rallies, and it seems like he's gonna full pack his stadiums, and they're probably not gonna wear protective equipment because he doesn't even wear any equipment, so that should be a doozy. Um, Ray Cesarelli. I mean, it doesn't really matter because this guy's a jackass, but he was a NASCAR driver that quit because NASCAR banned Confederate flag bans. Okay, and for people who think that that was a bad move, the Confederacy literally left the United States of America to become a different country because um, they wanted slavery to exist. They were willing to leave the United States and knew they were probably going to end up going to war just so they could keep slavery going. Now, I know at that point in time, slavery wasn't seen as bad as it was in the 1800s, and it was actually a big part of their economy, but it was slavery. I mean, we're talking about slavery, so we know how bad slavery is, and the Confederacy is literally a sign of slavery because they were fighting for slavery. And I don't understand how people can defend waving a Confederate flag, because not only are you defending slavery, you're defending people that wanted to rebel against the United States of America and wanted to leave the country. It's just so stupid. Why the Confederate flag should have been removed when they lost the war, because that country no longer exists. It's just so stupid. So this race car driver literally retired because he wanted to protest the Confederate flag ban. But good riddance, they didn't need him on the platform. But he had 32 races and 0 wins, so NASCAR had an awesome reply saying, like, who were you? It was awesome. In other news, taxpayers paid over $76,000 for Donald Trump Jr. to kill a Mongolian sheep, which is ridiculous. I mean, he's got a ton of money, and we're paying taxpayer money for that. Ah, boy. Um, Rayshard Brooks was asleep in his car at a drive-through. I think he was drunk, and an officer fatally killed um, this black man, but it's different than the George Floyd scenario. I'm not on the side of the cop here. I don't think he should have fatally shot Rayshard Brooks, but I do need to point out that he was resisting arrest, and he ran from the cops and took one of the officer's tasers, and he punched one of the cops in the face. So it's a lot different than George Floyd. To put into context, George Floyd was not resisting arrest, and the officer put a knee to his neck for about 9 minutes and killed him. In this scenario, this guy fell asleep, was drunk, fell asleep in his car. The officers told him to get out of the drive-through area. He fell asleep again. I think things escalated where he like requested backup, and he was trying to arrest him, um, and he resisted the arrest, punched one of the cops in the face, stole one of the tasers, and ran away. And he decided to use lethal force, and he shot him twice in the back. The autopsy showed he was died from organ damage and blood loss. So the Atlanta District Attorney considered murder charges, and the Atlanta officer was fired after the shooting, and the chief of police resigned. I also think that the officer who killed Rayshard Brooks had a lot of complaints also, like Derek Chauvin. So I don't know why these cops still have jobs after so many complaints, but that's a different problem that leads to this problem. So protests, of course, followed in Atlanta, and Boston declared racism a public health emergency. I thought that was a good idea. Um, One of the four officers involved in George Floyd's death, Thomas Lane, got released. It was $750,000 bail. It's not like they wanted him to get out, but I guess his family raised the money. So he wasn't the main two. Like, of course, he wasn't Derek Chauvin, and then he wasn't the Asian guy who was like front and center telling the bystanders to move, and he wasn't the main one, but he still was there. So he should have been held responsible and charged, but he got bailed out. So there's still only 3 officers left to prosecute now. So Starbucks had to make a U-turn for this major mistake. Um, because of the this is after, but because of the coronavirus, they're closing up to 400 stores in America and Canada in the next 18 months, and they plan to open about 300 stores that specialize in carry out and pickup options, so whatever. But I was saying they had a U-turn about this because they were not allowing employees to wear gear that supports the Black Lives Matter movement, and they said they supported the movement, and then they said that, and it was disgusting. They actually had reversed their decision, which is good, but I still don't appreciate that. Like, they said it would incite violence or because it was political, but they took a stand and they were walking back on it. So after all the backlash, they reversed their decision. So they at least got that right. Trump lied saying there is an AIDS vaccine in his press conference because, he's always making up bullshit. President Trump signed an executive order about police reform that focuses on training, creating a national database that falls short of protesters' demands. But it's at least a step. But a big drawback is that it lacks police accountability. But it proves that change can come from protests. That the unlikeliest person that you'd think would be making police reform and helping out, minorities, Donald Trump, is actually signing a executive order. So it's not fully solving the problem, but it's a step. It's a pretty small step, but it's a step in the right direction. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. This is why I'm a little upset, because it just feels like this year cannot go right at all, and it just seems like it keeps getting worse. Like, this year is definitely going in the history books, but there's been a border dispute for a long time in Kashmir, and it turned deadly the past day or two. India said that 20 soldiers died after a violent face-off with Chinese troops in the Kashmir border in the Himalayas. Um, India responded by killing 5 Chinese soldiers, 11 were injured, and that was the first clashes in 45 years between India and China. 45 years. So for 45 years, there have not been any clashes, and in 2020, where everything is going wrong, India and China start clashing, which could lead to a world war, because America would probably go on India's side as their ally and probably like their main weapons supplier. Yeah. So just to put into perspective how bad this year has been, there have been 2 World War III scares in the same year. in the same year. First was U.S. and Iran, where um, it's good that we didn't go to war, I guess, but Iran was very bad, and I really didn't like the way they were going with things. And they attacked American troops in Iraq, but Trump said, like, I guess they're not going to do anything or whatever, and then the tensions died down. But like 100 Americans, I think, had like head injuries from that attack, and Trump was just chickened out because he's just too chicken to do anything. He's a horrible leader. So that's how that ended. But now we have India and China, and it's so stupid. It's over this small freaking border. It's not like it's the India-China border. It's a small piece, like near their border. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that de-escalates. They were talking about that de-escalating, and then another incident happened when India responded. So it's another setback. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Supreme Court ruled a major decision that gay and transgender people are protected by federal law forbidding discrimination on the basis of sex. People trended and oh, I love this. People trended and showed appreciation to Obama for on Trump's birthday. So what they did was like on Twitter there was like 6 hashtags trending, and it was all like praising Obama on Trump's birthday. It was great. A drug called dexamethasone is cheap and widely available, and a study found that it can save lives of patients seriously ill with the coronavirus. UK experts say it's a major breakthrough, so that's good news. Another piece of good news was that retail sales went up 17.7% in May with openings, but there's been some spikes because I think we reopened a little bit too early in some states. Like I think my state I am in Illinois or New York, I think some states have done a really good job, but some states like Texas and Florida, Arizona, it seems like they've been reopening too much. Now there's spikes in cases, so yeah, that's not good because it seems like we were actually getting better as a country, and now this is happening. So hopefully, this isn't a long-term thing. Especially when they say a second wave could still hit in September. In Berlin, World War II bombing survivor Saturn the alligator died in Moscow Zoo, and that's pretty crazy. I think it said he lived till 84, so as an alligator, so that's pretty crazy. But it finished out even with the crazy thing that happened in Georgia's primary with the long lines and the voting machines not working. It said that voter turnout tripled, so that's another piece of good news. Yeah, 2020 is a heck of a year. So, um, yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Um, I hope that this year doesn't get worse, but you know, hopefully this year will start to get better and there's some sort of turning around. I think it's kind of crazy that on Twitter, I saw like right before June hit, there's like there was this hashtag saying like Dear June, like people saying this year's been crappy. Hopefully June will turn around, and that's definitely not the case. So hopefully this year will get better by the end, and we'll just have to see though. So stay tuned. All right, have a good day, guys. See ya.